Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you. I am Deshna Sawant and I will be your moderator for today's exciting exploration into BRSR updates and value chain disclosure. I am delighted to lead you through a session filled with valuable insights and knowledge. Today, we have a session full of insightful conversations. Our wonderful speakers will guide us through the BRSR updates and value chain disclosure. First up, we have Mr. Rishabh Singh, a sustainability consultant at AA Garg & Co. He excels in ESG reporting, strategy implementation, climate risk management, net zero initiatives, corporate sustainability, and circular economy. Rishabh has led numerous government projects across India. Today, he will be talking about the key highlights of NSE's FAQ, learnings from NSE's observation on filing, recent circular issued by SEBI, and finally, SEBI proposal of amendments to BRSR disclosures. Next, we have Mr. Hussain Parpia, a professional with 15 plus years in environmental management and sustainability. He is an ISO 1401 EMS lead auditor, ISO 1464 GHG lead verifier, and a certified professional in carbon footprint by CII. Today, he will be talking about features of integrated guide to BRSR, mapping of SASB subsectors, integrated guide to BRSR, and guidance on BRSR questions. So let's dive into today's agenda of the webinar. Here's what we have lined up today. BRSR filing for 2024-25, BRSR VCP filing, recent key updates, and following the presentations, we will have an interactive Q&A session. Let's go over a few important guidelines to ensure a smooth session. The meeting will be recorded. Only the discussion would be recorded without attributing to the speakers, and request restriction from spamming or marketing during the session. Q&A session shall be taken in the last. Kindly restrict the discussion to the mentioned topic. Note that all attendees are on mute. For any queries, please use the raise hand feature. The moderator shall unmute and allow to speak in the Q&A round. Kindly introduce yourself and your organization briefly and ask your question. In view of time limitations, we would request all to avoid repetitive questions. You may also please keep entering your queries in the chat box and we shall get back to you. Now, as we start the webinar, I invite Mr. Rishabh Singh to start with the first topic.
Yeah, thank you, Deshna. So majorly in this webinar, we will try to cover three major circulars or updates that we have from the SEBI or the exchanges. The first one is that was released by NSE on 10th of May. This is regarding the frequently asked questions on filing of BRSR and also some observations and guidelines by this NSE that they have recommended or to the businesses based on their assessment of the filing of the FY23 reports of the companies. The second is the 22nd May circular. This is regarding the recommendations of the experts committee that was set up by the government for BRSR disclosures, and this is mainly related to BRSR value chain disclosures as well as BRSR core assurance. The third one is on 18th of September. That is the recent one. The NSE, in consultation with SES, has come out with an integrated guide to BRSR. These are sector-specific guides for 38 sectors as per the SASB classification, and there is one integrated sector agnostic guide also. Yeah, so let's dive into each one of those. Next slide, Deshna. Yeah, so let us have a first look on the key highlights from the FAQs that were released on 10th of May regarding filing of BRSR. So there were some basic confusions in some of the firms regarding how to take up the filing of BRSR for FY24 as well as going forward. So NSE had clarified this in this circular. So some of the key highlights is, as mentioned here, we'll go point wise. The number one is that even if a company is not in the top 1000 market capitalization for a current year, but if they are previously in the top 1000 companies based on market cap and they had been mandated by this to disclose their BRSR, then for this year also they will have to be disclosed. This is in line with the SEBI's regulations, LODR 2015 regulation. So let's say for FY24, you were in the top 1000 companies as per market cap and you had filed your BRSR. But let's say for FY25, you might not be in the top 1000 companies as per the market cap as on 31st of March 2025, but still you will need to file your BRSR for this year as well, for the current financial year. The second is that companies can have to file the BRSR with both the exchanges, irrespective of, if they are in the market cap or top 1000 market cap on NSE or BSE, they will have to file the BRSR with both the exchanges. Also, from this year, NSE has specifically mentioned that both the BRSR PDF and the XBLR format, they have to be submitted on the same day. So BRSR PDF is part of your annual report, and the day on which you are submitting your annual report, basically on the same day you have to also file your XBLR to the exchanges. NSE has also mentioned, some companies had doubted after filling the BRSR, there were some changes that they would like to make after filing. So I was just mentioning about if there are some changes that you would like to make after filing your BRSR, there is a specific pathway as mentioned on the screen that you can follow on the exchanges to basically amend your filing of BRSR. But NSE has specifically, clarified that this should be done only as a last step, as a last resort, and you should ensure that you file the right BRSR in the first attempt itself. Also, there might be many questions in the BRSR format that might not be applicable to many of the companies. But NEC has came that if such is the conditions so that some questions are not applicable to you, then you will have to mention the reasons that you are not, why it is not applicable to you. So in the PDF file, you will have to mention at the bottom of the question, and the XPLR, if you see the XPLR format, if you have gone through, in each of the section, there is an add note section at the bottom of each of the sections. So in those sections, you have to basically add the notes stating the reasons for which the questions are not applicable to you. Also, if any company is already reporting on the other sustainability reporting standards or frameworks that are internationally accepted like GRI, SASB, TCFD, then they might not have to report the entire BRSR as per the format again in their annual reports. They could just have a cross-referencing of the disclosure data sought under the BRSR and aligning it to the disclosure data already disclosed in the other reporting that they have done as part of their annual report. Next slide, Deshna. So the second portion that the SEBI covered in the circulars was regarding the guidelines and some observations that they had based on their assessment of the filings of the report on for FY23. So uh, uh, basically SEBI NSE has set up a committee which looked at these reports, they analyzed the reports and they identified the gaps, and some of the basic gaps that they found out, the major gaps, they have basically mentioned this in the circular. So we'll look at go through all the basic all the observation that they have, but we have listed on few important or few basic mistakes or observation that the NSE had. So in the BRSR format, there are many questions in which they ask to provide the link of the specific document or policy. So what many companies have done, they have just given the link of their website, company website, but you have to give the link of the specific document that has been asked. Secondly, in the turnover question in which the companies have to mention the turnover, many companies have reported an overall turnover, but what the SEBI sorts is that you have to report the turnover for permanent workers as well as permanent employees, and in that also you have to bifurcate in terms of males, females, and total. So you have to see all these categories and you have to report the turnover rate separately for all these categories. The third observation is that in the principal one question in which you are being asked to report your R&D, sustainable R&D and sustainable capex investments, that is asked especially in terms of percentage. So whatever sustainable R&D or sustainable capex you are having divided by your total capex or total R&D investment for the reporting year, that percentage you will have to mention. But many companies has reported a total numbers in terms of R&D, sustainable R&D and sustainable capex, which is not what SEBI had asked for. Fourthly, the percentage of employees workers that are covered under maternity benefits will be calculated only out of the total number of females. Similarly, for males, the paternity benefits will be computed out of the total number of males only. This is clarified by the NSA in this document, but here I would like to just clarify that there have been recently many changes in the XPLR format for the current year if you have filed the BRSR for FY24. And in this particular question in XPLR format, the percentage was auto calculated based on the total number of employees. So for maternity benefits also, so number of females who are being availed this maternity benefit divided by the total employees is what the XPLR format was calculating, which is not in line with the NSA's basically what NSA is sorting. But we hope that uh, this has been this will I mean there would be some changes in the format next year, and the SEBI would take note of this and they would correct it in the XPLR format for the next year. The next point is that the details of the corrective actions are being sought in many of the questions if assessment is carried out. So let's say for health and safety or for working conditions, the SEBI is asking that whether you have conducted an assessment in the BRSR format. So if you are mentioning that you have conducted an assessment, then in the next question they are asking that what corrective actions you have taken. So that if you are mentioning yes in the assessment carried out, you will also have to answer the corrective actions that you will have taken. Many companies did not answer the corrective actions part, so this has been specifically clarified. Also, there are questions on trainings of employees and workers. So let's say for taking an example, there is a question on skill development training, health and safety trainings of employees and worker. So many companies are only considering the permanent employees and worker as part of as only those they are considering, but SEBI has clarified that you have to consider both permanent as well as non-permanent, that is might be contractual workers or employees to which you are providing the training. So your denominator should be total number of workers or employees, including non-permanent. One other observations or mistakes that the companies are doing is they are not observing the units in which they have to report. So for example, in principle 6 question 1, you have been asked the energy data, which is in joules or multiples of joules you have to report. But many companies are not reporting in that unit. They might be reporting in just in the pure terms in terms of kilowatt hours, the units in which their electricity bills are there. So this has been specifically clarified that you have to report in those units, specified units only. Also regarding the waste question in principle 6, the waste generated. So in the format, if you see, there is a specific heads that are given like plastic waste, e-waste, battery waste, construction and demolition waste. So you have to report for each of these heads. You don't have to report it just total number of the waste that is generated. So you have to bifurcate in these heads. And also there is heads on other hazardous and other non-hazardous waste. In that also you have to specify what are the other hazardous or non-hazardous waste that you might have and the quantity that is generated. Next slide. So these were some of the few basic observations or learnings from the NSA circular on 10th of May. Now let us come to the recent updates that have come on 22nd of May by the expert committee. But before going there, we will just have a context setting of how that came up with. So as per the current regulations, that were the SEBI circular on 12th of July 2023 that was released for BRSR core assurance, BRSR value chain assurance, and the reporting format, the new reporting format for FY24 were released. So that if you see the three major updates, three major pointers from that circular are that the new reporting format was released, which included the BRSR core, which had 9 key attributes. Also, there were some few new questions added regarding purchase power parity and other questions. So this was one thing. The second was regarding the BRSR assurance. So the assurance was mandated for the top 150 companies for FY24, and going forward in FY25, it is 250 companies. And also there was a FAQ released by SEBI on the BRSR core assurance. Who can do the assurance? What are the requirements for it? The third important pointer was that ESG value chain disclosures were specifically mentioned that how companies will report from on the value chain for FY24 and going forward. So this was basically was being implemented from this year. It is FY25. So SEBI told that the value chain shall encompass top 75% of your upstream and downstream partners. Combinedly, you have to individually take 75% of your upstream and 75% of downstream. And this has been mandated for the top 250 companies for FY25 on a comply or explain basis. And the limited assurance for this is mandated from FY26. That is next reporting cycle. These were the three major updates in the regulations that SEBI come up with in July 23. Now let's see what are the latest developments on this on the BRSR disclosures. Next slide. Yeah. So for BRSR core assurance, what SEBI has now come up with is that the term assurance be replaced by the term assessment. Now, please note that this is just a recommendation by the committee and the final decision by the SEBI or the government has not been taken yet. They are still seeking public consultation and comments. But these are the recommendations and this might get implemented for this reporting cycle and going forward. Also, the companies for FY24, since they were already in the later stages of the disclosure, have been provided an alternative whether they can go for assessment, which is basically kind of a limited assurance only, or they can go for a reasonable assurance. And from going forward from FY24-25, the assurance term will be replaced by the term assessment. The second important disclosure, second important pointer was regarding value chain disclosures. So a lot of when SEBI came up with the regulation of this value chain disclosure last year, and the committee was set up after the budget last year, which had to basically see how companies can reduce their cost of compliances for the regarding disclosures and regulations. So in those consultations that they received from the stakeholders, one was regarding the BRSR compliance cost, and the companies basically came up with this key. There could be multiple, I mean, for some companies, the value chain partners constituting 75% could vary from more than 2,000 to 3,000 companies as well. So it would be difficult to, basically collect data from so many value chain partners, which might not have the right maturity as well, might not have the data management systems for ESG reporting or the BRSR core data also. So based on those consultations, this committee recommended that what can be done is that the value chain shall encompass the upstream and downstream partners of listed company, individually comprising 2% of more of the listed entity purchase or sales. So earlier you have to constitute 75% in total. That was just the disclosure. Now you have to just report for a value chain partners who constitute 2% or more of your purchase or sales. So this will significantly reduce the number of value chain partners. In the essence, the maximum number of value chain partners could be 100. If we consider all our 2%, there are 50 value chain partners. But there's an alternative that also in this disclosure, the alternative proposal is that this is apart from this might also be restricted to 75% of your VCP partners. So in that essence, the total number of VCP partners that you will have to report for BRSR core would be limited to 38. Also, what the committee has proposed that for this disclosure of value chain partners is currently on a comply or explain basis. This might be changed to a voluntary disclosure. So company will have the option to disclose their VCP BRSR core data, or they might not also. So this is just a recommendation. We'll see how this develops in the future. And also they have mentioned that for FY 24-25, since this is the first time that the companies would be reporting on their value chain, they might not report on the last year number, that is FY 24. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So we will just, briefly talk about since, from this year, the BRSR core reporting for value chain partners is mandated, and lots of companies are finding trouble in, collecting the data from the value chain partners. Even they are finding difficulties in assessing the maturity of their VCP partners. So how we help our firms is that we've just I have just describing the brief framework that we follow that to help our clients for this value chain disclosures. So what we have is the first step is the pre-assessment and strategy alignment. So we define the scopes and boundaries of what we need to disclose. We do a peer benchmarking of similar companies in the same sector, the same industry. We assess how we can cover that 70% of the value chain. So in essence, it means which PCB partners to take in constitute in this 75 and which to not to take based on their assessing their maturity and all those things. And then we finalize the eventual list of the VCB partners that we will be disclosing for the 75% compliance. The second step is ESG maturity assessment. So we have initially we float a basic survey or a template questionnaire to the VCP partners. Based on this answers, we have developed a risk maturity or a risk matrix or a score that we give to this VCP partners based on what they have they have answered in the questionnaire. And when this scores and this metrics gets developed, we help these VCP partners to build their capacity through workshop, webinars, and training session, how they can improve their ESG maturity and data collection. The next step, obviously the third and the last step is collection of data for BRSR core for all these value chain partners. So for this, we prepare the data collection templates that is in line with the BRSR core requirements. But also we have to see that we take the granular level data and not just the final data that is in terms of some attributes. So if you have to take emissions, then you will have to take all the fuels data from the companies, all the fugitive emissions that they might have, data on that, all the mobile combustions to their company owned vehicles. So we take all the granular data and we compile it to the final the requirement as per the BRSR core framework. We also provide training and support for collection of data. If there are any queries from the value chain partner, we address them. And then we do all the data consolidations for all the value chain partners and we validate it. And then if required by the client, we also do the allocation of this attributes, let's say for example, emissions. So how much emissions we'll have to attribute it to our client for their VCP partner. And then we prepare a report of the BRSR core value chain. And we also prepare a ESG performance report based on in which we basically do a scoring of their ESG performance on the KPIs of the BRSR core framework. So this is how we help some of our clients for this latest BRSR value chain disclosures that has come up. Yeah, so I would request Dishna to take up further. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishabh, for sharing the insights in detail. Now let's invite our second speaker, Mr. Hussain Barpia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's discuss a significant new development. The NSE, in collaboration with the Stakeholder Empowerment Services, SES, has developed a 38 sector specific integrated guides for the BRSR format. The purpose of these integrated guides is to provide clear and detailed explanations for each parameter within the BRSR format, outlining the objectives for disclosures and offering comprehensive guidance on how to measure and report these parameters effectively. The guides are strategically mapped to the SEBI's industry classification system and are aligned with leading reporting frameworks such as GRI, SDG, TCFD, CDP, and SASB. The guidance is underpinned by SES's proprietary ESG model and emphasizes three key areas, referred to as the steps of excellence in reporting. First, we have the mandatory disclosures, which consists of essential BRSR indicators that every company is required to report. Second, there are voluntary disclosures, featuring leadership indicators that showcase advanced sustainability practices. Finally, sector-specific disclosures provide tailored reporting guidelines designed for the unique needs of each sector. Next slide, please. Previous slide. In this slide, we have mapping of SASB subsectors to SEBI standardized industry classification system. As you can see the header on the top, the SASB Sustainable Industry Classification System is mapped to SEBI Standardized Industry Classification. Below, we can see how the industrial SASB subsector with code RR1 is mapped to several industry codes as per the SEBI classification. Next slide, please. Still waiting for the slide. In this slide, we will look at how to interpret the various sections included in the integrated guides. Let's examine the marked references in these guides. Reference 1 contains section heads of general policy and principle-wise disclosures labeled P1 to P9. Reference 2 indicates whether a disclosure for the corresponding BRSR indicator is essential or voluntary. Reference 3, titled Overview or Objectives, provides contextual references that are helpful for disclosing on each indicator. Reference 4 provides overview of material responsible business conduct issues. References 5 to 9 map this BRSR indicator to disclosures from SASB, CDP, TCFD, SDG, and GRI respectively. Reference number 10, titled How to Disclose, outlines the standard response expected as per the BRSR format and guidance note. Reference 11, titled How to Measure, provides calculation methods and other formulas for accurate BRSR disclosures. Reference number 12 provides additional guidance via best global practices. Reference number 13 provides industry-specific best global guidelines aligned with SASB standards. Reference number 14 provides sector-specific best global practices aligned with GRI standards. And finally, reference number 15 provides disclosure guidance based on SES ESG model. Next slide, please. In this slide, we have a sample BRSR question. So we can see an example of the 15 references we discussed in the earlier slide. As you can see, this is an essential indicator marked as important to investors. This question is about total energy consumption and energy intensity as per the BRSR format. Also, you can see there is a section on how to disclose this indicator and its mappings to disclosure in GRI, SDG, TCFD, CDP, and SASB respectively. Next slide, please. In continuation with the sample BRSR question we saw in the earlier slide, we have additional guidances on the global best practices. As you can see, map disclosures for GRI, SDG, TCFD, CDP, and SASB in more detail here in this slide. Now have a look at our services designed to support your ESG journey. ESG Leadership Advisory and Strategy focuses on aligning sustainability with your business strategy. We identify ESG opportunities, conduct feasibility analysis, create a transformation roadmap, and provide trainings for leadership and management. Next, materiality assessment and stakeholder engagement involves identifying material ESG topics and aligning them with the CSRD double materiality framework. We also engage stakeholders, provide policy advisory, and integrate results into reporting and strategy. Next, we have ESG baseline assessment. Includes assessing GHG emissions, water and waste footprints. We also evaluate existing practices, develop reports, benchmark against peers, and offer recommendations for improvement. Next, we have net zero climate risk mitigation goals and initiatives, which focuses on assessing climate vulnerabilities, identifying ESG risks, creating goals and KPIs, and developing a roadmap to achieve net zero. Next, performance management and governance, wherein we track ESG initiatives, integrate ESG into risk management, and develop an ESG dashboard. And finally, we have external reporting and ratings, wherein we offer comprehensive support for BRSR, GRI, integrated reporting, SASB, and CDP alignment.
We understand there are a lot of questions. Please book a free consultation with our team, where our team will be happy to help you understand and strategize your company's ESG journey for you and answer your queries. The link to book the consultation is shared in the chat. Thank you, everyone.